Now, this part of the segment is called the echo chamber, where myself and Noah, we do agree on a lot of things, and we kind of want to just bounce off each other and bring our WhatsApp convos to real life. Maybe not all of it to real life.
Please, not all of it.
About things we deeply agree on and we're deeply passionate about. And so the first thing I kind of wanted to bring up, and let me give some context as well, but this is the essay question we have to solve, right? How much coalition building can really be done with people who are seen as bigoted? So what do I mean by this? Gary Stevenson has recently supposedly alienated a lot of ethnic minority people and people from our communities by recently coming out saying that you have to appeal to those disaffected reform voters and traditionally English people who might have some racist or kind of harmful ideas around minorities on a class basis, right? Because to build a real political movement, we need to focus on common needs.
I think there is a risk that the left gets very, very angry and starts to be really, really aggressive and accusatory towards people who might be voting for reform.
The reason this has absolutely infuriated some people is because the suggestion is that for the greater good, you actually have to tolerate this anti-immigrant sentiment and accept these differences for the purpose of unity. But that's problematic because it's like asking us black and brown bodies to just accept hate against us again and build a coalition with people who literally think our cultures are basically inferior, when shouldn't it be the opposite way around? Shouldn't it be the case that we set the tone and we set the kind of political rhetoric, that we set the standard that people need to meet? It's a difficult one. I'm a bit conflicted on it, but your clarity is always welcome, of course.
No, I think that's interesting, and I appreciate you for bringing that out of the echo chamber. I have thought about this a little bit because, as you know, I've been a big fan of Gary Stevenson for many years. I actually emailed him back in the day trying to work with him.
I got you the trading game book.
Yeah, you literally got me the trading game book as a present.
Yeah.
So Gary, respond to my email and come on the podcast. But yeah, I think there's a lot of tension there because the first thing I want to say is, like, Gary is a single issue guy. He's really about the wealth tax, and he's quite clear on the fact that he's a single issue guy, and this is one goal, is to get together enough support from the people that the Labour Party or the party in power can't ignore him, basically to co-opt a voter base to then act as sort of the captain steering that ship. So I think we need to recognise that with Gary. That he's not a plural or pluralist or multifaceted politician. He's a single issue guy. But I think he is moving into dangerous rhetoric here because he is losing sight of the lived reality of people, which is multifaceted. Although we might experience from material impoverishment, people like ourselves also experience the material impacts of racism, the material impacts of a rise of fascism, the material impacts of a rise in violent language towards ethnic minorities. And Gary himself, obviously as a white man, is not particularly exposed to that, but I think it's dangerous to lose sight of that. And I think for Gary himself, finance background, economics background, I can never quite work out what university he went to. I wish he would mention it. But I think perhaps he is getting too fixated on his single issue material goal and forgetting that the material reality of black and brown people, ethnic minorities, is impacted by this fascist language. And we don't want to normalise it, even if it's at the cost of delaying this wealth tax, delaying the wealth redistribution, because we don't want to, as much as you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, you don't want to bring something bad in with the good.
No, I agree. And I think, honestly, personally, it's actually really conflicting for me because I think like much of the racist rhetoric that is galvanizing the far right is obviously against Muslims. And so on the one hand, the actual Islamic way to kind of combat this is kind of the Gary Stevenson way, which is a shock horror. Like, you actually kind of need to invite these people into your house, invite them to the masjid, tell them to come and experience your community and change their sort of views in that very kind of human way, appeal to what you have in common, which, to be fair, I think that's kind of what Gary's talking about, even though, of course, he is a single issue person. But at the same time, it's, sorry, I'll let you land, don't worry. But at the same time, it really is an absolute injustice to accept the normalization of these attitudes. And so I think on a personal level, that's what I'd sort of approach. But then on a wide political
It's interesting
level,
what you say, because I think just digging down to what you said is a brilliant example.
Yeah.
Because I guess the difference is Gary didn't recognize that these people are fascist in their rhetoric and are racist in their rhetoric, and nevertheless we should invite them into our progressive movement so that they can ameliorate their opinions and we can progress together and collaborate. Which I think the example you gave about how a Muslim would behave, even if someone hates Islam, we should invite them into the masjid, we should invite them to our home so they can see the benefit of the way we live and they can become, they can warm together. What Gary did is actually say, he's not going to call them fascist. He's not going to call them racist. So I think now I'm realizing that is the dangerous part. Yeah. So perhaps what would have been better for Gary to do there is to say, I recognize there is a rise in fascism. People are spouting a lot of fascist rhetoric, a lot of racist rhetoric, and we should challenge that. But on my issue, I'm going to want their support, not in terms of their political opinions, but in terms of their economic commitment to a wealth tax, which is my single issue. So we can collaborate. We don't have to throw you out because we're going to have to live with you. And I think we're moving past the era of cancel culture where we have to realize we have to live with these people even after we say they're terrible people. So fascist or not, I'm going to want to work with you towards this wealth tax. And if we get into a political discussion, I'll disagree with you on that point as well, rather than rejecting or trying to cover up the fact that these are detestable opinions that these people hold.
Precisely. And I have nothing more to add because this is quite literally the echo chamber. And
no, exactly. And week by week on the echo chamber, we might bring the weird and wonderful out of our brains, or we might bring something a bit more topical, such as that. But I think it's important to think about the things that are just going on in our mind, bring it to the table, and see what comes of it.
Definitely.
Gary, that's our recommendation to you. As I say again, still a big fan. Still would love to have you on the podcast. Still need you to respond to that email.
Just to educate him, he should actually be here right now. He should be sitting right between us, and then we'll actually tell him.
If you did that interview with us, we wouldn't have let you go down that rabbit hole. We would have saved you, Gary. But still.